Today we're going to be taking a look at the worst of what beauty TikTok has to offer this month. And with today's first story, we're going to be talking about a slightly dodgy dermatologist. That's going to be a real rant on my behalf. And then we'll finish a lot lighter with somebody who uses butter as a primer. So, you know what's worse than a dermatologist? Is a dermatologist who gets proven wrong, denies they're wrong, even though they're proven wrong, and then quadruples down on the misinformation that he is spreading. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Charles MD. If you're not on TikTok, you probably haven't. I hadn't actually heard about him until this whole debacle. That's a lie, actually. I heard of him through my brother Robert's channel. Robert is a professional makeup artist, and he did a video debunking Dr. Charles's makeup based on science TikToks, which was a series where he kind of used the anatomy of the face to, in his words and his opinion, make makeup look better. I don't even know what he was attempting to do, to be honest. It sounds interesting, but it just kind of proved that he doesn't know makeup. He used the wrong products, he'd done some weird techniques, and ended up just making the makeup look worse. It's a very good example of someone trying to make up shit for views, basically. Long story short, makeup isn't his area of expertise, nor is chemistry or basic product usage, according to this other series of videos he posted over on TikTok. Dr. Charles MD recently posted a video saying that glycolic acid, the one he was using in particular was the glycolic acid toner from The Ordinary. Glycolic acid can be essentially deactivated if you use it on wet skin or if it's used alongside other skincare products that contain water, rendering your glycolic acid useless, therefore you are wasting your money.
You are probably wasting your money by using this the wrong way. Using it wrong and wasting your money. Who am I? I'm Dr. Charles. I'm a board-certified dermatologist, and I love glycolic acid. I bring it with me everywhere I go. I'm on vacation right now, and it's good for skin texture, it's good for body odor and dandruff, it's good for collagen production, it's good for hyperpigmentation. It does everything, essentially. It's my favorite skincare ingredient. But here's why everyone is using it the wrong way. If you put this on damp skin, or if you put it on your skin and put a serum on immediately after, or a lotion, it is instantly deactivated. Glycolic acid is one of the few skincare ingredients out there that is deactivated by water, by moisture, by essentially anything. So if you're not putting it on clean, dry skin, you are wasting your money and not getting the benefits of one of the best skincare ingredients out there.
Now, this video got the attention of Ramon, who you may know on YouTube as Glow by Ramon, who is now a cosmetic chemist and a product developer, and a few other cosmetic chemists who will come onto it a bit, who were basically like, no, that's incorrect. First of all, water is the first ingredient in this glycolic acid toner, but because it's literally their job to formulate these products and understand how they work on the skin, and in conjunction with other skincare products, they corrected a lot of Dr. Charles's misinformation. Ramon in particular says that he thinks this derm may be getting confused with pH balance. And other than the product maybe being a little bit more irritating on some people's skin, applying glycolic acid onto damp skin, wet skin is not an issue. It's going to work absolutely fine.
Glycolic acid is one of the few skincare ingredients out there that is deactivated by water, by moisture, by essentially anything.
You are not wasting your money because water is not the issue. I'm a cosmetic chemist and product developer, and water is the first ingredient in this product. So it's not deactivating glycolic acid. Glycolic acid isn't deactivated by everything. Glycolic acid is actually water soluble. You need water to make it into a product. The issue I think they're intending to talk about is actually pH. And this is one of the situations where cosmetic chemistry and dermatology, those worlds don't meet. So with acid, there's a pH point called the pKa, where you have an equal amount of the acid form and equal amount of the salt form of that acid. For more benefit, you want more equal or higher concentration of the acid form. And you can see for glycolic acid, it's about 3.8. And you can see The Ordinary does take that into account. Most brands do. So when they say it's deactivated by everything, notice they don't give you any further detail or information. I personally haven't seen any evidence showcasing that applying this on damp skin is going to deactivate it. Applying on damp versus dry skin, damp skin might make this more irritating, and maybe that extra water will affect that pKa situation I mentioned earlier. But again, no evidence. Theoretically, applying this and waiting a little bit before applying other skincare could give you more benefits. But the tea is, when you apply this to skin, we know water gets lost to the skin. So right there, water, glycolic acid. The other part of it is, we know that AHAs are great humectants, which means they bind to hydration, which means water, glycolic acid. We know those things. We know glycolic acid still has its benefits, clearly not deactivated. So clearly this is just an oversimplification of science and an overcomplication of skincare. Just follow the directions for what the product says, and even this does not make any mention of having to wait afterwards. It just says follow with your skincare.
Ramon says something in this video which I think actually perfectly sums up the state of skincare TikTok in particular at the moment. He says Dr. Charles's video is just an oversimplification of the science and an overcomplication of skincare. Dr. Charles got a little bit upset by being corrected here, and he tried to justify what he was saying. He tried to show the studies that he was referencing and where this misinformation came from, so he made a part 2 to this video, which made things worse. He basically tries to back up his opinion by again talking about pH, which Ramon was like, that's not what we're talking about. Long story short, Dr. Charles says that if the glycolic acid goes from a pH of 3.5 to 4, it becomes less effective. Therefore, applying it onto damp skin or adding water from other skincare products into the mix will deactivate your glycolic acid.
You are probably wasting your money by using this the wrong way.
If you put it on damp skin or put a skincare product on immediately after, you're wasting your money. Who the hell am I? I'm Dr. Charles, a board-certified dermatologist and lover of glycolic acid. Because we know glycolic acid is good for acne, dark spots, wrinkles, fine lines, dandruff. This is part 2 because I was accused of oversimplification. To which I say, absolutely. As a doctor and an educator, I take complex science and turn it into easy-to-follow rules for you. If you like simplified skincare, you're in the right place. But let's get nerdy for 30 seconds. The pH is roughly 3.6. At that pH, it's the right balance of charged and uncharged molecules. Like this. It's confusing because water is the first ingredient, but it's the right amount of water that keeps that solution at the ideal pH. It's confusing, but essentially as the pH goes from 3.5 to 4, you get increased bacterial growth or higher numbers on this side. And how do you increase the pH of something? By adding water to it or by adding a water-based skincare product. Translation, if you put this on damp skin or put a skincare product on immediately after, you raise the pH and make it less effective, which is wasting your money. And so if you want oversimplified skincare and the occasional deep dive, follow along for more.
And this is when a few more cosmetic chemists got involved, because they were like, again, no, that's not how it works. That's not how basic chemistry works. They came in and tried to politely correct him, because again, he's clearly misunderstanding, misinterpreting these studies. Cosmetic chemist Ava Perkins tries to set the record straight and says that while she does appreciate his attempt to try and prove his point, what he's saying about the shift in pH is in no way relevant to how consumers will be using this product. I will link all these videos in the description down below so you can check them out for yourselves, but Ava goes on to show through an actual experiment that in order to change the pH balance of this consumer glycolic acid, in order to make it ineffective, in order to deactivate it, as Dr. Charles says, you need roughly 1,000 milliliters of water to change this product's pH, and it doesn't even change that much.
pH goes from 3.5 to 4, you get increased bacterial growth or higher numbers on this side. Translation, if you put this on damp skin or put a skincare product on immediately after, you raise the pH and make it less effective, which is wasting your money.
Hi, Dr. Charles. My name is Ava Perkins. I'm a cosmetic chemist. I'm sure you're tired of hearing from us by now, but this is the second video you've made claiming that water from your skin or your skincare products can deactivate glycolic acid, and I'm here to tell you from another perspective that this is wrong. While I do appreciate that you cited studies to support your claim that if glycolic acid shifts from the pH of 3.5 to 4, that it becomes less effective, this is nowhere near applicable to consumer use and is therefore not really relevant to the conversation. For the sake of simplification, you don't even need to understand acid-based chemistry to argue this because it could be debunked experimentally. Let me show you. In my experiment, I used glycolic acid solution from The Ordinary that was originally mentioned in these videos. I of course calibrated my pH meter before getting started to ensure my measurements would be accurate. To measure the amount of glycolic acid I'd use, I soaked a cotton round on both sides and weighed the product before and after to give me about 4 grams. While yes, this may seem like a lot of product, especially considering that not all 4 grams will be delivered to the skin because it was absorbed by the cotton round, this was my starting point and I will show you lower concentrations later. I took the initial pH of the solution, which ended up being 3.7, and started diluting the solution with deionized water, mixing it frequently to ensure that the glycolic acid was dissolved thoroughly. We are shooting for a pH of 4 here. As you can see, I started with a fairly small beaker, but quickly had to upgrade the size from 50 to 100 to 250 to 500 and to finally 1,000 milliliters because it took so much water to dilute the solution from a pH of 3.7 to 4. Once I finally achieved a pH of 4, I used over 1,000 milliliters of water. Now, going back to the argument of 4 grams being too much to use, I did the same experiment with 2 grams and 1 gram to be even more realistic for consumer use. Even still, it took about 500 to 600 milliliters each to achieve a pH of 4. Now, I don't know about you, but the surface of my skin does not contain a half a liter to a liter of water, and my skincare products don't either. Even if we were to argue that the pH of our skincare products overall, and not just water, could impact the pH of glycolic acid, your skincare products are rarely that high high in pH and would be negligible to the pH of glycolic acid, especially if we're using only a few grams of our skincare products.
I don't know about you, but when I've washed my face, when it's dripping even a little bit, even on damp skin, there is not 1,000 milliliters of water on my skin or in my skin or in the air or in the rest of my skincare products that is now going to deactivate my glycolic acid. Dr. Charles here has done what a lot of the clean beauty industry do, kind of what the EWG do, and completely misinterpret a study using authority bias, his lab coats, to present the misinformation as fact. And of course, people are going to believe him. I'm not going to read studies. I don't understand them. Jane the Chemist over on TikTok, who is another amazing cosmetic chemist to follow if you like a bit more in-depth scientific product reviews as well as formulation information, also did a similar experiment disproving Dr. Charles's theory. Not even theory, just misunderstanding.
Translation: if you put this on damp skin or put a skincare product on immediately after, you raise the pH and make it less effective, which is wasting your money.
Not quite. Let's debunk this. In this video, Dr. Charles is talking about this glycolic acid solution from The Ordinary and saying that if you apply it to damp skin or immediately after with some other products, it'll raise the pH, making this ineffective. My girl Ava did a great video debunking this with an experiment. What is a science experiment if it's not able to be replicated? So I'm going to replicate it again. I just want to quickly touch on acid-base chemistry. Dilution and neutralization are two completely different things. Diluting with water could alter the pH, but neutralization is what's going to alter the pH. So, very different. For strong acids, you would need a lot of water to alter the pH just a little bit. So let's head over to my pH meter and do a little bit of an experiment. So here we have my glycolic acid solution. It is very well loved in a beaker and it is definitely 3.6. They were not lying. I put about 4 grams into a bigger beaker and now we're going to dilute it with water. So now I've added 100 grams of water, which is 25 times the amount of glycolic acid, and see, it has not even reached 3.8. I've now added a total of 500 grams of water, which is 125 times the amount of glycolic acid, and it's at 3.83. Unfortunately, that is the biggest beaker I have in my lab, but if you have 500 grams of water on your face before applying your skincare, the only thing you're going to need to worry about is getting a towel. That is all.
But did Dr. Charles MD, graduate of Harvard, learn his lesson from this basic chemistry lesson? You would think as an educated individual he would have done, but no. He now triples down in what I consider one of the most embarrassing comebacks yet. In an Instagram story, he says, for the non-derms talking about medical procedures, glycolic acid pills are neutralized by water after application. It's so petty, it's so petty. This is where pharmacist and toxicologist Mohammed, aka Moskin Lab, gets involved. Again, one of my favorite creators for debunking misinformation and providing easy to understand yet in-depth short form content. Yet again, to set the record straight.
So we've already seen this. I'm not trying to debunk the science because already amazing content creator covered this. What I want to focus on is triple downing on the same concept of being misinformed and spreading inaccurate information and saying that non-derms talking about medical procedures, like how dare you non-derm cosmetic chemists that actually formulated this. I decided to check this actual citation and I read the review about the glycolic acid peels, and it says that the glycolic acid peels or alpha hydroxy peels can be neutralized with water or with basic solutions, and the citation inside this review is number 11. And the citation number 11 is actually a textbook with the following name. I decided to get that book. So say hello to a textbook of chemical peels. So the book mentioned the effect of dilution on the pH of solution, and the dilution is done by adding actually water. And some of the cosmetic chemists online tried this and it showed similar results, and the authors of the book actually tested that, and as you can see the pH strips here with the amount of adding water and the changes of pH, and below they said it must be remembered however that adding water to an acid solution does not neutralize it but simply dilute it.
This time not only did Dr. Charles misinterpret the study that he's citing, but the study he actually linked to in this Instagram story proves himself wrong. It's so embarrassing. You need to watch this video by Moskin Lab. There's a lot of twists. It's like a Netflix special. So did Dr. Charles MD even read this study that he's referencing, he's linking to? It doesn't look like he did, or more likely, he just didn't understand what he was reading, because cosmetic chemistry is not his areas of expertise. Now, yes, this was a little bit of fun drama to kind of watch unfold, but it's also extremely worrying, to be honest with you, when it comes to professionals in the industry, professionals models turned influencers who wear their scrubs, who wear lab coats on TikTok, people with the title doctor posting wildly inaccurate misinformation that affects everyday consumers like myself who now thinks our products are a load of shit. Let's circle back to the second video he posted. In this video, he talks about how he did oversimplify because he likes to make this kind of science easy to understand. But I'll be honest, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dermatologist, but I've been an influencer for 10 years, and what he's doing is not good content. I've not seen a lot of his videos, but this video in particular, this series of video, he doesn't seem to have cracked how to get good information, enough information into short form content without misleading, without leaving out important key things, key bits of information, like Jane the Chemist, like Ava Perkins, like Ramon, like Mo Skin Lab. He can actually learn something from these people, how to create short form content with all the relevant information in. He talks about these skincare rules that he's trying to teach his followers, but they're all wrong. And he's done this before. He's actually been called out by a lot of the science community for, I think the most recent one was he recommended everyone take these prescription meds. And everyone in the comments was like, this is so dangerous. Like, you cannot recommend prescription medication. Let's also circle back to Ava's video now, because at the end of her video, she makes a great point about the state of dermatologists as influencers, especially on TikTok right now, being the one and only trusted voice of the skincare industry and those who speak out of their expertise, like Dr. Charles.
Now, the good news with all of this is that Dr. Charles did not say that glycolic acid was carcinogenic or was going to kill you, but there are now over 4 million people that have seen these original videos, and a good chunk of them now probably believe that they're wasting their money or misusing a product that is perfectly fine based on evidence that is presented as science but is completely irrelevant. Whether people like Dr. Charles realize it or not, misinformation like this actually really harms the cosmetic industry because it encourages consumers to distrust the products they use and the companies that sell them. Like I showed, even if glycolic acid were to be deactivated, it takes a tremendous amount of water to do it, and it doesn't take a doctor to prove that. This week has been truly exhausting. Continue to live your life. Thanks for watching.
You know what the most cringe and embarrassing, secondhand embarrassment thing is about this whole situation? Instead of being like, shit, I made a mistake, these people who are actually educated in this area have called me out, I should correct it, I should delete the videos, I should repost their videos. He quadruples down by leaving a comment like this, where he is basically questioning the integrity of these cosmetic chemists whose job it is to literally create the products that he's telling them how they should be using. And the fact that he accused these chemists of just trying to get views, what are you, 12? Like, grow the fuck up. Like, no one gives a shit. Like, they're getting views just fine on their own. It's so contradictory coming from somebody like Dr. Charles MD, who creates some of the most inaccurate, clickbait, cringeworthy videos I think I've seen coming from who is supposed to be a professional on TikTok, who can't even disclose a paid for ad properly. That's another issue when it comes to professionals like this. Why are they hiding adverts? Why are they not properly disclosing adverts? Are you embarrassed to be working for that brand? Should you not be working for that brand? People trust your opinions. They should be trusting the ads that you're posting. The issue, in my opinion, with certain experts online, not just dermatologists, once they gain a certain following on social media, they fall into the exact same pattern, the exact same cadence, content type as any other influencer. Their content becomes less about integrity, providing factual information, and more about what content can I create in order to grab people's attention instantly. What fear-mongering headline can I create? They're trying to go viral with the next big skincare tip, the thing you're doing wrong, the thing that's ruining your skin. The level of professionalism that you'd expect from a doctor, I wouldn't go see this guy. I wouldn't go see him if this is how he acts online, first of all. The level of professionalism you'd expect from a doctor disappears because that need, that want to keep getting views and gaining followers takes over their integrity as a doctor. The fact that he believes he is the voice of reason in this argument, I don't know if he's blinded by the however many millions of followers he has. It's so jaded. If he's not embarrassed, there is enough people with secondhand embarrassment for him watching these videos. He believes his own hype so much that he seems to have forgotten his basic education. He seems to be so unwilling to listen to actual experts who know what he's talking about. It's actually concerning. This isn't a situation where he's gone, well, no, actually, if you look at this research, it kind of, counteracts what they're saying here, or, this may be another interesting thing to look at. It's cosmetic chemists saying, no, you've misunderstood the basic principles of chemistry because that's not what you're educated in, and him saying, no, you're wrong, I've read it. Then the chemist being like, no, what you're reading, you're also interpreting wrong. He is just wrong. This is the point where you shut the fuck up and listen. But did he? No. Instead of learning, I think he got a little bit upset, threw his toys out the pram, and he went on a blocking spree. Michelle from Lab Muffin posted a video about this as well, and when she posts a video about your video, you know you're in trouble. You know you said something wrong. And her caption on her TikTok video debunking this was, "This dermatologist has the worst content." And some people in the comments of her video said that this was unfair, and you know what? I don't think so.
This dermatologist says that you deactivate glycolic acid if you put it on damp skin. It's been debunked by my fellow chemists. Watch these and follow them, they're great. It really worries me that he's trying to educate people about pH but seems to have forgotten high school chemistry. I think it's why he's invented this new myth. The amount of water that you need to change the pH by a little bit is a lot, because this is the equation for pH. It is a log scale. Glycolic acid is also a weak acid. There are lots of weak acids in this product. I counted about 20. Weak acids form a complex buffer system, a dynamic equilibrium, which counteracts changes in pH. Most skincare products have buffer systems. That's why it took Ava and Jane a ton of water to change the pH even a little bit.
This was not the first time, as I mentioned, Dr. Charles has posted some problematic content. There has got to be a point where you say enough is enough, and people in your own industry, people who are more educated in an area of what you're talking about than you, speak out against you and have to say enough is enough. If that means saying that your content is absolute bullshit, then that's what it's going to take, because he has not listened time and time again. And you know what's really frustrating is when I first started YouTube reviewing skincare, there wasn't a lot of us online, right? There was people who reviewed beauty in general. But then we kind of had this like rise of the skinfluencer. We didn't have a name back then. And then dermatologists came onto YouTube, which is great. But after that, my comments were constantly filled with, "But you're not a dermatologist, like why should I listen to you?" And now it's kind of morphed into, as I mentioned, people believing that dermatologists, they're the only people worth listening to in the skincare world. People kind of forget that toxicologists exist, cosmetic chemists exist, even beauty editors. You know, there are so many different voices of reason and different voices that you can listen to for a more well-rounded point of view on the beauty world, right? The industry. And now we've come to a point where dermatologists are just doing what us skinfluencers were doing 2-3 years ago, in the sense that they're just reviewing skincare products, they're reading ingredients off the ingredient list. Some of this content is adding about as much to the conversation as any other skinfluencer, but they just so happen to have doctor at the beginning of their name. I'll come back to talking about dermatologists in a second, but take a look at this graph from beautypsycom.com, which shows what expert is the right expert to be talking about a particular expertise. And yes, some people may have other areas of education too, but this is a good standard kind of basic to go from. I do want to give credit to derms in particular whose content I absolutely love. I'm not shitting on dermatologists at all. Dr. Shah, Dr. Maxfield, Dr. Dustin Portella, Dr. Shreen Idris, Dr. Sam Ellis, and believe it or not, I've only actually just started watching Dr. Dre, but these are all people who, in TikTok in particular, dermatologists who have cracked social media in my opinion, without over sensationalizing things in order to get views, without making shit up for your views. I'm sure there's plenty more who I'm gonna remember as I, go on. Ramon, Michelle from Lab Muffin, Jane the Chemist, Jen at the Eco Well, Ava Perkins, Esther the Melanin Chemist, Mo Skin Lab, all great for debunking misinformation when it comes to products in general. It's scary to see people like Dr. Charles MD, is that his name? That's his name. Be so blindsided by his own ego that he can't listen to people who are actually educated in the area he's talking about. Imagine if I was like, you shouldn't use urea because I saw this one study in mice where it blew them up. And chemists were like, well, that's not true. And I was like, I saw it in a study. You're just trying to get views. How fucking stupid do I sound? I think it's also important to remember, as Mo Skin Lab said himself, that just because somebody is wearing a lab coat, just because someone posts a citation or a study, you shouldn't automatically believe what they're saying. We as consumers, as social media content viewers, we're not going to read that fucking study. They know we don't know what we're looking at. So it's a very easy thing to do to make yourself look authoritative in what you're talking about by posting a dermatologist journal study or whatever the fuck it is. Integrity is very important when you're an influencer. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've seen people come and go. I've seen people rise to the top and fall down just as quick. And without integrity in your content, without having a community around you, it sounds cheesy, you're not going to last long. You're going to get a reputation. You are going to fail. Influencers of all kinds need to realize that we are a business, and in order for a business to run smoothly, you need integrity. If you are using your audience for a quick cash grab, if you're misleading your audience, they're going to lose trust in you. As a business that doesn't make business sense. It's worrying to see doctors like that guy, I forgot his name already, be so against learning something new, be so against being corrected when he is wrong, and is more than happy to just ignore the actual professionals telling him where he's wrong. He doesn't care if he's leading his audience astray because he gets the views. It's weird, really weird. Anyway, moving on swiftly, I never want to hear that person's name again. Okay, so this TikToker recently went viral for not only using butter as a makeup remover, but as a primer.
Oh, you guys are gonna hate me for this. Watch me do my makeup using butter. Tesco butter. Get ready with me while I show you my buttery makeup routine. This is the secret. Do not judge. Honestly, it is amazing. So I'm going to use some, I've already used it before, as you can tell, just a little bit of butter, and you just apply this onto your skin. I promise you, this will change your whole makeup game. You're just going to rub that all into your skin, and so it's going to give you a really like honey glazed donut kind of like skin. This instead of primer honestly is way better. Like, can we take into consideration how dewy and glowy this foundation base already looks? And with the butter base, it glides your contour on, and might I add also, it makes the blend so much more easier. Do this butter routine, you will never look back. I mean, is there anything much more that I can say other than look how flawless and buttery my base looks?
Now let's think about this for a second. Is there actually anything wrong with this? First of all, this kind of isn't butter in the traditional sense. It's a buttery spread, which doesn't make a difference really, but a lot of comments were like, well, you know, it's got all the nice oils you'll find in skincare, like in oil cleansers and stuff, which is technically true. And she mentions in the video as well that people were also concerned, you know, they're like, what about the chemicals? The thing is, this is food though, isn't it? This is food. It's not a cosmetic product. So like, yes, it may have the same things in it that aren't formulated to go on your skin, but we also have things like food preservatives. We have like emulsifiers, acidity regulators, coloring, salt, you know, all things that like I personally wouldn't love putting on my skin. Flavorings that you don't really, I swear it's got like butter inspired flavoring in, all things that you wouldn't see in your skincare. Yes, there's vitamin E in here, but it is not in that way. I'm struggling to explain this, but I don't know, because it's very simple. You don't get skincare benefits from food. If she wants to use this as a primer and a makeup remover, that's completely up to her. At least she's removing the butter once she's removed her makeup. I can't imagine it being very nice. I can imagine it being a bit of an uphill battle to really take off all that butter. And if she leaves areas of butter on her skin, if it's caught on her hairline, in her eyebrows, you know, little crevices, stuff like that, it could potentially break her out. I don't care what she says, that stinks. There's no way that doesn't stink. In the summer, if she goes out, she's gonna start turning into a cake. Like, she's gonna absolutely reek. The thing is, I don't believe she does this. I do not believe she does this. It's just something she did for views. The video went fairly viral, TikTok viral, and she's gonna keep doing it because it's getting views. It's the, what's it called, rage baiting. Like, she doesn't do this. Bethany Frankel, who is an ex-Real Housewife and now self-made millionaire entrepreneur, she might have been before, I don't actually know, is one of those people on TikTok whose reviews people usually love because people consider her views honest, which is great. However, there is something about this particular review that irked me. Let's go through this. So the cushion that she's talking about is the Clio Kill Cover Mesh Glow Cushion, and this is a mesh cushion, so it's almost like this ultra fine netting. I guess it kind of like holds this more liquidy substance in place, so it helps it deliver better onto the sponge. And you'll often see this mesh cushion, this particular mesh, in formulations where the product is a lot lighter, it's not as full coverage, and the finish is usually dewy and glowy and quite hydrating. Now, not only does Bethany Frankel not even mention the particular product here, she just kind of generally groups all Korean cushion foundations in one group together and says they're crap, they're bullshit. So she lists the reasons why she thinks this is the case, and she says number one, well, she doesn't say number one, she says the color never matches. Yes, Korean brands, they really don't have the greatest shade range. A lot of people make the argument that, well, this is because it's for a Korean audience and there isn't much racial diversity. However, I would also argue that there are darker Koreans who skin color just doesn't match, and a lot of Korean brands are now wanting to market to the West, so they do need to improve shade ranges. She says it also dries out in 10 seconds. You're using it wrong. It's that simple. You don't know how to use the cushions yet, which is fine. Yes, you're gonna love or hate some of these cushions. As someone who doesn't know much about makeup myself, I either love them or I really, really dislike them. Some of them are hard to use. You do kind of have to do it at a certain speed, work in certain areas in a particular way, but they aren't all shit. You can't just group them all together. The lipstick lesbians, who Bethany actually tagged in this video, made some great points that these products are made for Asian beauty standards. You're unlikely to see a Korean person use this, then put on contour, highlight, blush to the extent, for example, that Bethany's wearing here, that we see American celebrities wear. The typical makeup that you see in America is very different to what you see in Korea. There are different standards when it comes to what people want to look like. This is something I had to learn as a product reviewer. Just because I dislike a product doesn't mean it's shit. And sometimes I still make that mistake where I'm like, oh, this product is crap, I hate it, which is fine, but I also need to explain why some people might love it or why I think it's so popular. But to sit there and say that all Korean cushions are a scam because you don't know how to use them yet and you've used one type of cushion, or no, she said she used a few, whatever, doesn't mean they're all shit. It just means that that makeup isn't intended for you to use because you don't know how to use it. It's not your style. And third point. But let's finish there. I'm tired now, I'm exhausted. Let me know what you think about these stories down below. You can watch some more videos here, some general light entertainment here, and I'll see you over there.